There's a couple things I want to talk to you about in regards to Twinstar or Apollo. Some of you may not know this, but Apollo 3, and Kronos are currently 3 realms under Twinstar. So if I say Twinstar, I mean Apollo, because that's where we play. I want to discuss this because I've been playing on Twinstar/Apollo since 2013. It was my first ever World of Warcraft server that I played on, and I have since seen a lot change. I'll be talking about the things that are wrong with the server, in my opinion. I just want to clarify before I start, there's so many things that Twinstar is doing right, and in the end that's the reason why I'm still playing here. But there are many things that could be done differently and I think would have much better result. Number 1, queuing for random dungeon. This is a new thing. Again, there have been some fixes where on Apollo 3 you can't queue dungeon one after another if they are, I think, less than 30 minutes apart. Basically you get like a deserter debuff, not exactly but something like that, where you can't queue for another dungeon after you enter the dungeon for another like 30 minutes. So that means if you finish a dungeon in less than 30 minutes, you will have to wait until that debuff wears off and you can queue again. I don't know what's the reasoning behind this. It really makes the whole leveling experience much more difficult, where you have to do dungeons, and if you are in a dungeon group, you'll also have to do questing and stuff like that, especially if you have a pre-made dungeon group. You'll finish the dungeon in 15 or 20 minutes, and you have to wait extra 10 or 15 minutes until you can queue for another one. So I don't know what's the reason behind this implementation of this function, but I think it's total bullshit. Number 2, line of sight. I don't think this worked like this before, like a couple years back, where there's literally no line of sight in like battlegrounds. You can't line of sight things, and it's completely illogical to me. If you're standing behind a tree and the opponent is attacking you, even though he should logically not see you, not be able to attack you, he still will. I don't know if there's an argument for this being Blizz-like, but if it is, it may be Blizz-like, but it's not logic-like. Another thing that is really big, especially now in Apollo 3, is faction imbalance. Okay, right now it's exactly a week after the release of Apollo 3, and the current state is 64% of the players online are Horde and 36% are Alliance, which is quite a substantial difference. That means 2/3 are Horde, 1/3 is Alliance. Okay, that's the first issue. The second issue that comes out of this but doesn't really is BGQs. You would think that Horde will be waiting for BGs twice as long at least, right? The truth is the opposite. Right now, Battleground queues at level 80, which is the max level at this point, are like 100 Alliance in the queue and 1 Horde. Imagine how long you're gonna be waiting for a Battleground if you're Alliance. And this doesn't even reflect the faction imbalance. Since there are more Hordes, there should be more Hordes in the queue, but they're not. So don't try to fix faction imbalance telling people to roll Alliance. If those are PvP players, they're already on the Alliance. You can see that in the queues. And the solution to this, probably the easiest solution would be implementing cross-faction for Battlegrounds at least. This would fix the PvP side of things. Players on Apollo have been asking for cross-faction for quite a while now, and I think now's the best time to do it. People are frustrated, waiting in super long queues, not able to get in the random battleground, not able to play. That's the worst thing. I know it takes developers to make the cross faction work, and it's not just done from one day to another. And I know you're lacking developers for years, since that's why we've been stuck on Cataclysm for this long, and Mist of Pandaria is still not even close. But I think you have to address these issues. Another thing that would be great to implement, and I don't know the reason why it's still not, is Arena Spectator. I know there's an argument for win trading and sniping people. You know, you check the Arena Spectator, see who's queuing for the arena, and then either snipe him, use a anti-comp to snipe him, or dodge that team because you know you wouldn't win against them. But how about implementing Arena Spectator that would not work in real time, but you could instead replay arenas already played in the past? Meaning you would have, like, and I'm talking from experience from another private server, they would have an Arena Spectator where you could replay games of some of the top teams that they played in the last couple weeks or months. And I think that would be a great thing for players that don't have their arena partner online, so they can't play themselves, but they could watch games of other players. Man, 3v3 events, I have this love-hate relationship with. More of a hate relationship, to be honest. Why? Because you have 2 days, Wednesday and Sunday, when you can get into the 3v3 arena. You can get there only in specific time, between 7 and 11 p.m. So you have a 4-hour window 2 times a week when you can get in 3v3 arena. But we know Apollo is international server. That means this time doesn't fit everyone. For me, I have to go to sleep earlier, and the last thing I'm gonna do is not pushing the arena and staring in my monitor for a few hours. That's not the last thing I want to do in that day. So for me, playing 3v3 is pretty much impossible. Why? Because outside of the 3v3 event, nobody's gonna queue up. Everybody's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna wait until the 3v3 event happens because I get some rewards and stuff like that. So you essentially killed the 3v3 bracket outside of the 3v3 events, which for me means I'm not able to queue up at these specific times when the 3v3 event happens. So I'm not able to queue up for 3v3 at all. Solo queue. It's been discussed not only on private servers but on retail as well, and we can see that with the newest patch on Shadowlands. Finally, retail is doing something about it, addressing this, and they're somewhere in between skirmishes and solo queue. They're in that transition phase where they're kind of transitioning from skirmishes into solo queue, but they're not quite there. If you want to know more, Skillcap has a video about this, what's currently happening with solo queue. I don't know why it had to take that long, but whatever. At least it's getting better now. Solo queue, I think, is an incredibly good thing. Along with the Arena Spectator implementation, if Apollo could implement solo queue, they would get so many new players, so many new PvP players to play on the server. Warmane did it. I think this is something the developers should think about. As I said before, I know it's hard to find developers and have people working on these things, but I definitely think that this would be a worthy addition to the Apollo PvP scene. Yeah, and if we can't do solo queue, we have to wait for the arena partners. How about at least have a duel? I used to duel back in the day all the time, and we had this thing that would always reset our cooldowns if we were in Elwyn Forest or in Durotar, in the 2 favorite dueling zones. So I would do duel after duel. We would duel all the time, and that was one of the fun parts of PvP. But what happened is, a few years back, there were some issues, some exploiting of resetting the cooldowns or something like that. I don't really know what that was about, but essentially they got rid of it. They got rid of the functionality of resetting the cooldowns with every new duel, and that was the end of duels pretty much in L1 and Durotar. Since then, like, who would duel if you have to have a duel and then wait for at least 5 minutes until your cooldowns come back? Like, how many duels are you able to do in an hour? 10 at best? Like, that's a waste of time. So I say either make the duels reset your cooldowns again, in Elwyn and Durotar at least in these two zones, or make a completely new zone where we can teleport and duel there, and where you gather the PvP players so that they can practice and they can have fun in 1v1 and not just in 2v2 or 3v3, where you also have these bullshit events, which I can't even play. Event Masters. Most of you probably don't even know what I mean by this. There used to be Event Masters, not just Game Masters. Event Master was something below Game Master. They didn't have as much power, but what they used to do is they used to make events. You had different types of events. You had like jumping events, racing, PvP. That was always something you could do that was just different to the normal game. We would always be looking forward to these events and checking up when they're coming up. And I remember I would be signing up for every single 1v1 event. Sometimes that would be 2v2 or 3v3 events. We could also win some stars in there if we were able to place in first, second, or third place. And that was such a good time. Some of the best memories I have on Twinstar are of these 1v1 events. Not only for the fact that I was playing an Unholy Death Knight that dominated, but it was just so much fun. And I don't know what happened to it. I don't know why they're no longer event masters, but I think that's something they should bring back. And I personally would be up for that. I would become an event master and hold these events for players to have more fun in game, because I know how much fun I had. So please, Twinstar, bring back event masters. And this is probably the final point I have. There's character auction on the website. Is amazing thing. Is literally, if this thing wasn't here, I would probably not even play here anymore. Why? Because this makes it possible for people to switch classes, to trade, sell, or buy different characters that you would otherwise have to level up, or you would have to gear up and stuff like that. Instead, you can trade them and play whatever you feel like playing at that particular time. And that's an amazing thing. But you can trade, sell, and buy every single class except Death Knights. And why is that? I love the fact that I had to level up all my Death Knights and I have this kind of bond with them, but I think it's about time we could trade Death Knights on the character auction as well. I don't know how hard it is to change all these things to work, you know, when you have to have a level 55 character on the account to have one Death Knight per realm. That might be a little bit of an issue, but I don't think that's anything that the Twinstar staff wouldn't be able to deal with. And that's the end of my rant. I've been playing on Twinstar or Apollo or whatever you want to call it for a couple years. It's been fun, it's been great, but there are things that could be improved. And these are the main things that come to my mind when it comes to what's wrong with Twinstar and what could be better. So let me know down in the comments, what are your thoughts? What would you like to see on Apollo, on Twinstar? What are the pros and cons of the server in your opinion? Hey, Meytrix from the future here. Sorry, but there's one more thing I'd like to mention. As I was talking about the solo queue, you know what would be even better? 1v1 rated and non-rated arenas. There are other private servers that have this, and it is the best thing ever. Don't do the CD reset for duels. Don't make a dueling zone. Fuck the solo queue. But please, Twinstar team, make this 1v1 arena available. There will be no more slacking while waiting for arena partners. No more waiting in endless arena queues. This would be the solution to so many things. Think about it.